Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of Let's Talk the Winchesters. And with me, of course, is Carla from Carla's Astrology. Hey.
And Leanna.
Yeah, and you have a little guest host with you today, your little assistant.
Yeah.
And yeah, so today we're going to talk about episode 2 of the Winchesters. And before we do that, we actually forgot to do something last time because Carla actually pulled a tarot card from the Supernatural Tarot for the last episode. And which one was it?
It was the Six of Pentacles.
Mm. And what do you think that means in terms of last episode?
I think that was symbolic of them. Maybe him at first not sure if he wants to work with them and talking about John, or maybe she's reluctant to have Mary's reluctant to have John work with them, and then then you have Carlos and I forget the other young lady's name. Lita. Yeah, so it's like they're kind of like becoming a team and realizing that they got to work together. I think that was kind of symbolic of them coming together.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, since it's like a card of generosity in a way, I think it's like the gift that keeps on giving, which it definitely was as soon as they found that clubhouse, and where he found so many more clues to what his dad was doing and why he might have vanished. So yeah, I think that card was very fitting.
Yeah.
And you've also drawn a card for this episode, but we'll talk about that one a little bit later.
Okay.
Okay, so first, Carla has the screenshots again, yes. And so we're going to talk about the episode really quick and then go into our thoughts. Okay, so the episode is called Teach Your Children. And we're starting in Topeka, Kansas in 1972. And we can see there's this commune in the woods, peace, love, happiness, and all that good stuff. And of course, there is going to be a monster. What else? So, in the next picture, we can already see that monster taking a victim. And we can see that there are these roots and branches coming out, so some kind of wood monster. And my voice is a little, so I'm still kind of sick, so excuse me for that. Okay, and then next, we are in Savannah, Georgia. And the gang comes to this old factory, or what seems to be another place from the Men of Letters, because we can see the symbol right there on the floor. And they encounter some zombies in there. Some even come back to life, and there's a little fight scene and everything. And they were looking for some files from the Men of Letters about the Akrita, but turns out Samuel was already there, and whatever was there, he took with him. So they didn't really find anything. But as some of these zombies come back, of course, as we see in the next picture, they tried to use the box on the zombies, but it seems with those kind of monsters, it doesn't work. So the box only seems to be limited to what kind of monsters it can absorb. So that's a pretty interesting fact. And I guess it makes sense because zombies are not really possessed. They're just dead or undead or whatever. There's not really like a demon that can be taken out of them. So I guess that kind of gives us a hint into what the Akrita might be, that they might need to possess people or something. So we'll see later on. And so in the next picture, Samuel, he has left a clue for the gang, for his daughter mainly, on where to go. This is a newspaper article about someone going missing in the woods in that commune. And so Mary decides this is where we're going to go. And here we get the first kind of indication of where John may have gotten this whole thing for like the treasure hunt from, because this seems to be like a reoccurring thing between Mary and her dad, that her dad is leaving clues and breadcrumbs along the way, and she just follows them, which also happened in the first season of Supernatural when dad didn't come home from his hunting trip and was leaving clues everywhere that the boys followed. So kind of like similarities here. Next, Mary then gives orders to everyone in the group of what they're going to do. And right away, we can feel some tension in the group because not everyone is happy with Mary being the one bossing everyone around, because she's just doing exactly what her father would do, not taking anyone's thoughts into consideration. And so, yeah, that doesn't sit well with everyone. And a little bit later in another scene, we learn that John was actually a scout in the war. So his job was to find things or find people, find information, whatever. And so here we also get a first clue at what he was good at as a hunter, finding things and you know, tracking things down. Next, excuse me. We see Millie. She is going through a box of the stuff from Henry, her husband, and that's all she has left. Like basically just a shoebox full of memories with his watch, a picture, the letter, and maybe some other things. So when John arrives, they kind of get into a little bit of an argument, and it seems that she's worried that he's going to repeat what his father did and just disappear. And so, yeah, she's afraid of that. And John just thinks that it's his mother disapproving of his life or not believing in him or anything. So here we have the first moment of, you know, the child-parent disagreement, even though they want the same thing, but they can't really express it. And so they just part ways without being on good terms. And next, when the gang is in Topeka, they find out that they have to go undercover in a commune. And the person who's most happy about this is Carlos. And here we get our comedic moment in this episode when he starts singing that song, The Age of Aquarius, and he's just going all out with the tambourine and just really having fun. And I really enjoyed this moment in the show. So yeah, they go into the commune. And what I also found interesting was the choice of song, The Age of Aquarius, since we also know that the symbol of the Men of Letters is the Aquarian star. So kind of like maybe a little hint to something. I don't know. Next, in the episode, we see Ada. She goes back to Millie, and she tells her that she used to work with Henry, and she also says that Henry used to have secrets and he used to make mistakes because he was keeping secrets. But John is not like that. John is more open and he is sharing more about himself. And she says that he got them from his mother. So here we also get a little clue of like which parent shaped the kid in what way, which we also then get to like put down from like Henry, not Henry, from John and Mary down to Sam and Dean. And another thing that was interesting is she goes around the corner and she asks if she can have something of this vine. And Millie says, yeah, you can take all of it. I don't even know what it is. Henry just planted it here and no idea what it is. And then she tells her that it's jasmine and that it's for protection. And so suddenly that's like a little message to Millie, like, yeah, I did take care of you. I didn't just leave you here unprotected. And next, um, when there is another person that goes missing, Mary right away jumps to a conclusion of what kind of monster this is. She thinks it's a mimic, and she completely ignores everyone else again, who thinks, no, this might be jumping the gun too quickly, and let's investigate this a little bit more. Let's hit the books and see if this really is a mimic, because Lata, she is not convinced at all. And so she starts doing her own research, whereas Mary is getting ready to fight. And yeah, once again, tension the group because she's just not listening. She's behaving exactly like Samuel. And Carla's is the one who's most frustrated with that. So next, Ada, she goes into the basement of the clubhouse, something we haven't seen before, but she obviously knows her way around that house, and she is making herself a potion with some of that jasmine and some other ingredients because she wanted to tap into the remains of the demon that once possessed her so that she could get access to the demon's memory and knowledge to find out something more about the box, the Akrita, anything they possibly can. And what she did then was automatic writing. So she was writing everything down that came to her. And that was pretty cool. That was really cool to see. After that, Lata, she identified the monster after hitting the books and speaking quickly to Ada. And she gave her the final clue that it is actually a monster that used to be a real woman, and her name is Latunda, and she was once a very controlling and abusive mother who trapped her children in the woods, and that's essentially the monster that she would become. And after that, next, the monster then goes to John, because the thing with this monster is it can take on the form of whoever this child, so to say, has some issues with. So this is like she's taking on that parental figure, whether it's the mom, the dad, or in one case, the nun from the place where the orphanage where one of the victims grew up. So that's the monster's way in. And here, Latunda is dressing up as Millie. And of course, the monster slips up, talks a little too much. John realizes that's not his mom. He tries to fight it, but she takes him to his lair, and the gang is too late to save him. So after that, no, wait. That's another one. But in between that, so the gang, they find the lair of the monster, and they actually they fight it, they kill it, they set the other people free in there because they didn't die right away. It was something that would have happened slowly over months. And so in the end, they managed to kill it and get out of there. And so after that, John goes home and has a good heart-to-heart talk with his mom, and she tells him something about the relationship with her husband and how they would do things if they ever got in a fight and all these kind of things. And that finally helped both of them to understand where each of them is coming from and to see that Millie can actually let John go off and do this thing because it's important to him. And he knows that his mom is simply worried because she already lost her husband and she doesn't want to lose her son too. So I think they, like, with this conversation, finally opened up and being like, okay, I'm going to do this. You're going to let me do this, but I'm going to be careful, or I'm going to be as careful as I can, but I need to do this. And she realizes that. So there's no way that she can stop him from doing that. And then after that, Ada, she takes the others down into the basement, which they had no clue even existed. And so she's telling the gang what she was up to with the automatic writing, shows them what she found and everything. And they, yeah, they all get together, and they also make up and get back on each other's terms. Like, they also had, like, Mary and Carlos had their conversation about, you know, you need to listen to others. You can't just do everything, decide everything by yourself. We're a team and all that. So in the end, they come back to a good place. But then at the very end of the episode, we see that there is a new monster, which we cannot really identify yet. It's a hooded figure. From the hands, we can only assume that it's a woman and possibly a witch. And she goes to where Latunda died. This is Latunda's lair. And she opens up a little glass bottle and gets the energy of that and collects it for whatever reason. And there seemed to be a lot of animals following her. Now, for me personally, it was a little bit too dark to see what kind of animals they were. I thought it was creatures from the forest, like foxes and deer and whatever kind of thing. I couldn't really see. I guess I would have to watch it again to see if it was possibly also hellhounds or something. Yeah, but so far we don't know who that is. And I'm sure over the course of the season, we will find out. So, what did you think of the episode?
I thought that the good at the end of it, I think that it like might be indicative of her, whoever it is, has control of those creatures that they came across in the first episode. Because that's kind of what it looked like to me. They all look the same. So I don't know. I mean, it's only time will tell. But and then of course, you know, Ada, hinting around and giving Millie insight that, you know, she knows Henry, and so, you know, I think Ada knows more than she's letting on.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was good.
I think this episode was really interesting, because also what Dean said, I wrote that down again. He said, the ties that bind a family together can be complicated. Parents raise you, teach you what's right and wrong, and in some instances, how to kill monsters. But no matter who you are, there comes a time when you have to break from them and make your own way. And if you're not careful, things can get pretty ugly. So, yeah, that was basically showing us that their dad, John, he also had like a very similar kind of thing with his parents. One not being there, in that case, was the father, and like having difficulties with the other parent. Mary was also struggling with the whole family dynamics because, yeah, she was going hunting with her parents. That was like a family business already. And as we later learned in Supernatural in season 5, I believe it was, there were also some cousins, distant cousins, twice removed, whatever, all Campbells that were in the hunting business as well. So this was like a really big family operation. But there was the love missing that John actually received in his family. And so later on, that was kind of switched around. Like with Sam and Dean, the dad seemed to be the one that was not very loving, even though he had experienced that love. and it was the mother who was missing, who was the loving one in a way. So it's kind of weird how those things turn around sometimes. And that for me was interesting to kind of get a look at what happened to them before they became parents.
Yeah. After I got done watching the episode, I went and looked at the wiki fandom, and I was telling you before that they have it that Mary has the sense of humor like Dean, or Dean got his sense of humor from her as far as or whatever, like fondness for rock, and then fake IDs. But like you mentioned, it's Carlos. He's the one, and he's so, yeah, he's goofy.
Yeah,
I like it. I like it.
Carlos is awesome.
Yeah, he is, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, there was one thing that was very, very Dean. It was when she handed him that fake ID, and he was like, I'm not so much into the talky stuff. I'm more into the, hunting, punching, whatever kind of thing. So, yeah, that was very Dean.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and how she, the other part I noticed was very, very, they kept comparing her to her father being like headstrong and not listening to the others. And so I have and if you watch Supernatural, she still was like that.
Yeah, when she came back and things didn't exactly go her way, she left and took off with Catch, of all people. And like that now makes total sense, seeing the younger version of her. And yeah, so that, I think they do a good job with portraying the younger versions of them and like actually bringing it full circle. So what card did you draw for this episode?
The Fools.
Which makes sense, yeah. I mean,
Liam drew it.
John and Mary are kind of like fools in this one for different reasons. Because Mary, she is just so caught up in what she thinks her dad wants her to do, and she's not being her own person. And John is just so caught up in wanting to make his dad proud and having these feelings of self-doubt, like, what if I can't do it? What if I'm not good enough? And all that. And he doesn't even see all the things that he is capable of. So yeah, I think those two are definitely the fools in this episode.
Yeah, the impulsive, and then it takes their friends to ground them again.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, like the little dog that would try to keep them from jumping off the cliff in the typical card, RWS card.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And they're just like, no, I need to do this now. Let me do this. I know what's good. Like, no, just listen.
Yeah, and I love Orsi did a
yeah,
he's doing readings for it. So definitely check it out. So the whole, she's called it like a Scooby Gang.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite Supernatural episodes is when they are in Scooby's universe, and they're
oh my God, yeah.
I love that.
I love how excited Dean was about that. He was like fangirling the whole episode.
That would be me, because I love Scooby. But
yeah, I grew up watching that too.
And then they're in a van.
Yeah.
And she's right. This is definitely Scooby Gang vibe there. And then of course the rock and roll, and I'm loving it.
Yeah. And what I also really appreciated, like Dean didn't really finish narrating the episode this time, But like last time, he told us that until that he keeps picking the music. And so towards the end, with like the collage of everything that was happening, and I think the song was "Teach Your Children Well" or something. At least that was part of the lyrics. And so tying that all together, and yeah, he didn't really need to say anything. The song said it all, and I think it was the perfect song to finish up that episode. So Dean really has good taste in music and knows exactly which song describes what moment.
Absolutely. Later. He's going to be 4 soon, and he is a force of nature.
Hi. Yeah. Okay. So, well, that was everything that I have for this episode. And yeah, I can't wait to find out who that hooded creature is. And one thing that I love that we actually do get a lot more stuff from the Men of Letters, and that they really keep going with that. And the only thing that I'm wondering is if John now knows all that stuff about the Men of Letters and that he actually is a legacy, but Sam and Dean are the ones who end up with their father's journal, but they never knew about the Men of Letters. So did he not write anything down in his journal? That's a question that I just have, because like it's kind of hard to imagine that he would just write down the stuff about the monsters, but not where to find all the sources and where to find any of that stuff that he uncovered in those years before Dean was even born. So I mean, I know there's replica of that journal out there that people can buy, but from what I remember of the show, like Sam and Dean were pretty surprised when they found out about the Men of Letters. Like they didn't really know about it at all. So I'm wondering why John would have kept that out of the journal. That's just like something that I'm wondering.
Yeah, I don't even. Hopefully, they find a way to tie it in that makes sense, which I'm sure that they'll do that. But I have no clue right now.
But I went back to see some more about, for example, we talked about the car last episode. And so I went back and checked when John actually bought the car. And it was in season 4, episode 3, when Dean traveled back in time. And it was April 30th, 1973. So 1 year after he met Mary. And so, yeah, he actually wanted to buy one of those cars that he was actually driving, the VW bus, the bully. That was actually one that he wanted to buy. And then Dean was waiting next to Baby, right next to him. And he's like, no, that's not the car you want to buy. You want to buy this one. So yeah, on April 30th, 73, that's when John buys the car. So I hope that is something that they will actually put in the show, that Dean will be there and they will reenact that whole diner scene when they meet and the whole buying the car. They better put that in there.
Hey. I hope so. I hope so.
That's how we learned that he came to the car. So they cannot change that. Like if they change anything about that, then I will be very upset. Yeah. Okay. Well, so that was it for episode 2 of Let's Talk the Winchesters. And we'll see you again next week for episode 3. Until then, take care. Have a good weekend. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.